but like I've gotten to the place now in my walk with the Lord where I don't want to be like encouragement is good, but
Hmm.
I want the like the discipline of the Holy Spirit. Like I'm hungry for what the Lord has for me and I want to be set apart. I want to be sanctified. And every example that I can think of in the Bible, there was this setting apart. There was this sanctification process. I think of Joseph, right? He goes through all these different trials because the Lord is cultivating him and teaching him and doing all these things in preparation for his purpose and his mission. And so if I listen to a message and it's just feel good, like those are great. And it was great for me at a certain time. But now like I want to hear the message that like digs in, right? That
Yeah.
provides conviction for me to change and to grow in Christ. And someone that's
Hmm.
not as popular, but really like every message is just like this is how I should walk every day as a believer is Dan Moeller. And if people don't know of him, they know of Todd White. And Todd gets so much like flack from so many different things, but the people that say stuff about Todd don't actually listen to what he says or don't have never listened to a sermon that he said, saying the
Yeah.
prosperity gospel and all that. I'm like, it's the furthest thing from it. And so Dan was the one that brought Todd to Christ. He was like his mentor growing up, or when he converted at like 33 or whatever he was. And so Dan, like the way he lives his life, anyone that watches a sermon from him, he'll travel around. He has social media, but he doesn't run it at all. He doesn't accept
Hmm.
money from people. Like he's so kingdom minded with everything that he does that like, and he's so unoffended by everything that he has so much the love of Jesus in him that he tells stories all the time of where like he got in a car accident, brand new truck. The truck was paid for by the church or by other people, and he's like, I had every reason to be upset that this is my brand new truck. I've only had it a couple weeks or whatever, and like this person came out of nowhere and like hit me and this and that. We can get so caught up in selfishness and what we
Yeah.
want and complaining of when these situations happen. But in his mind, because the Lord has just completely changed him, that he is looking for opportunities to speak life into people and to share the gospel every chance he gets. It doesn't matter if he's at church, it doesn't matter if he's at a gas station, it didn't matter that he was, in a car accident. He got out of the car and the person that was driving, there was I think a family of people that was in the other car, and he gets out and the person driving was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," like thinking that he's going to come up and yell at them, right?
Mm.
And he ends up consoling them, and there's a little girl in the back seat that was just like trembling because you just got in a car accident. It's scary, right?
Yeah.
And no
Yeah.
one was like injured or anything, but he's just like he asked I think the mom who was driving, and I think grandma was in the front. He's like, is is your daughter okay or whatever? She's like, yeah, she's fine. He's like, is it okay if I just sit here and with you guys until the police get here and all that? And he's like, and she's like, yes, that's fine, that's fine. So he gets in the side of the truck or wherever that they were in, and she crawls over to him just
Huh.
naturally. I'm not even sure how old she is, but and he holds her. He holds her and he prays over her. He prays over everyone in the car. And I think the mother that was driving was like, "Why are you being like this? Why are like I just destroyed your truck, beautiful truck. We just hit your truck or whatever." And he brought peace to the entire situation. And
Mm.
the cop that showed up that day to for the accident and everything to give them their statement, what happened, he he starts talking to he sees the wreck, and then he talks to the family, and then he talks to Dan, and he's just kind of taken back. Like when you have the love of Jesus pouring out of you, people notice. It's different.
Yeah.
Something's different about you. And he's sitting there and he's talking to him and he's just like, man, this is like, and so Dan starts to tell him about Jesus because he's like, I don't understand. Like, he's like, this. Most people are angry right now. They're tense. They're whatever, and the whole family is like calm. Dan's calm. He's like, it's okay, man. It's just a truck. Like, I can get another one. Like, the Lord will provide that. And the guy's like, oh well, I'm pretty sure he said like, oh, I'm an atheist. I don't believe that. And he's like, okay,
Mm.
yeah, that's fine and stuff. But he speaks over him. Shares the gospel, shares the love of Jesus with this man, and he didn't think much of it after that. And to add to that, he was headed to another church to speak at that time. So he didn't get to speak because it was
Uh,
delayed. Everything was delayed. fast forward, I don't even remember, you can't even hold me to this, of how long it was from when he went back and to that church. I think it was like 6 months later or something, if I'm trying to remember. It was a while later.
Hmm.
So he's speaking at, I believe it was that church that he was supposed to go to. It was close by, and he goes through his whole thing. He goes through his whole sermon, and he does kind of this altar call and stuff at the end. That cop was going through a lot of pain in his body, was going through some stuff in his life, needed healing, needed breakthrough. He got invited by somebody because it was his last resort. He had done everything that he possibly could, and his friend is like, dude, just come to this church, come to this healing service. There's this healing service that's going to be happening on Sunday night. And so he's in the very back of this service, and Dan tells this story of being at this intersection, and the cop was a part of it and stuff. And this cop comes up to the front at the very end, and he's like, I was that cop that you spoke to that day. And today I'm getting emotional to talk about, because it's so powerful, man. The love of Jesus is so powerful. When you fully surrender and you let go of selfishness, you let go of these things that you're holding on to, that it's all about me. This man came up and was completely healed in body. The Lord healed him right then and there, and he was set free, and he surrendered his life to the Lord. Like, just
Wow.
because of that one decision that Dan had to release all selfishness in that moment, when he had every reason and every right to be angry and upset and all of that, he released it. And it's like the Lord could have been after, that little girl, I guarantee, was impacted that day. That family was impacted that day. But the Lord was after that cop that showed up.
Mm.
And he knew that months later he was going to hear him again and realign their paths, and that this man would be set free. Like,
Yeah.
that is the love of Jesus. And I have to share that. I mean, there's so many other stories that he has. This is daily for him. Like, and I'm so inspired when I see that like, this is what being a Christian looks like. Like, this
Hmm.
isn't just a Sunday morning type of faith where we're just, this is like, if I'm in the gym and I have an opportunity to speak to somebody and pray over somebody, I don't want to be so caught up in my own thing with my music on, like thinking, oh, this is just about me. This is my time. It's my time away from work and the rest of my life that can be stressful. Like, I need to be open to what the Lord is saying, because he wants to love on his people, his sons
Yeah.
and daughters that are lost, that need encouragement, and to be so in tune with the Spirit that he's like, I need you to turn off your music right now and go talk to that man. I need you to pray over that man. Like, that's what we're called to do, right?
Yeah.
And I say all that to, like, the fitness life. That's the blessing that the Lord has given me, of being in the gym and being a coach and all those things. But now it's so much more of like, how is he using that to reach his people? Because there's so
Hmm.
much more than what we are just doing. It's not about us. So, as a long-winded type of answer, like, I think listening to Dan and even Todd, like, I mean, Todd's stories are insane, of like just walking out the gospel and loving people. Like, it's so different to what we're used to seeing, because so many believers don't walk that way. Like, because they're
Hmm.
carrying roots of offense. They're carrying all this stuff that's weighing them down, and they're so focused on their own stuff and how the devil is beating them up and like all these things, which, like, yes, it's hard, but when we get healed, when we finally like go through that process and allow the Lord to pull out those roots, then we could start to walk the way the Lord has called us to walk in this life of faith. So that's what empowers me. Like, now when I listen to stuff, like, I mean, my wife and I listen to Dan all the time, and every time I feel like I'm kind of getting off track and I'm getting focused on my own issues, I'll go back and listen to Dan, and I'm like, wow, I'm being so selfish right now. This is crazy.